Uncluttered and Unfiltered is supported by Hearts for Minds. Can you imagine waiting 11 years to get screened for cancer? On average, people with mental health issues experience an 11-year delay between symptoms and seeking help, and close to 2/3 of mental illnesses go untreated. Hearts for Minds promotes healthy lives by promoting mental health education, facilitating early identification, and connecting people to treatment. Are you ready to learn more? Go to heartsforminds.org for more information. Did you know that Uncluttered and Unfiltered is a passion project created to reach and connect a community of women over 50? Growing production and promotion costs can be a challenge, and your support means the world. When you join our Patreon bonus club, you'll have access to a ton of otherwise unavailable video content, plus commercial-free episodes and a private chat community where Christine and I will answer any questions about the upcoming series, Organizing Eden, which is really for all of us. Plus, we have a few surprises as well coming your way. For just $5 a month, you'll be helping us grow this incredible sisterhood. And if that's not possible, hey, we get it. Truly, the most incredible way you can support us is just by telling one friend about Uncluttered and Unfiltered. And thank you. We love that you're here.
Welcome to Uncluttered and Unfiltered, the podcast urging you to let it go and don't look back. With nationally acclaimed professional organizer Christine Stone and self-proclaimed hot damn mess radio and TV personality Eden Kendall.
Welcome, everybody, to Uncluttered and Unfiltered. I'm Eden.
And I'm Christine.
And we like to say if you found us, you found your new friend group, because we talk about all of the things that have to do with being a woman over 50. Now, Christine is a professional organizer, and sometimes that comes into play. Sometimes it doesn't. Yep. It just depends what the episode is about. But she always has great wisdom to impart. I am a newly reformed, unorganized person. Let's see if it still sticks after a while. I'm going to do my best to become that way. We are taking requests. So we had a request for an episode on burnout.
Yes.
And we kind of call it emotional burnout.
Emotional burnout, yeah, or emotional feeling overwhelmed emotionally.
Yeah. So this episode isn't just about burnout as it might pertain in the workplace. Right. It actually has to do with people dumping their stuff on you, right, whether that's an employer, a child, a mother, a sister, a brother, and we'll cover all of that. We both have stories. So this story that you have, you asked your daughter's permission, which we like to do. We don't like to just talk.
Yes.
I mean, we want to, without permission. There are some things we'll say about our kids, but the real stories like this, you got her permission.
Yes, I did.
It was a learning experience.
It was a learning experience, which really has to do with this episode, because what we're saying is sometimes you just got to let them see the consequences of their actions when they're adults.
Because burnout can very much be caused by, in this instance, your adult children offering the opportunity for you to also carry the weight of whatever mistake they may have made, or what misconceptions they had about the real world. And instead of it being like, okay, go handle this, whether we want to or not, we kind of take it on.
Well, I'm going to give this analogy real quick before we tell her story. So imagine if everybody throughout your week came in, first your husband spilled his stuff on you about what's going on and can you do this? Can you fix that? Can you make that appointment? So that's one potato in your lap. Then your daughter calls you and she says, oh my God, I don't know how to do this. Can you just do this for me? I have to go to work. That's another potato. Before you know it, you have a big sack of potatoes in your lap and everyone else has gone on with their life.
Yeah.
But you've got everybody's crap in your lap, potatoes. This episode is trying to figure out how to get rid of that in your life, because part of it is when you have kids or siblings, there's a pattern going on. Mm-hmm. Kids, when they're young, they look to you for advice. They're young. They don't know how to do things. That's normal. And then you set up the child-parent relationship. And this goes on forever. But then at some point, and I even wrote this down because I thought this was so important. At some point, what we tolerated as a younger mom, because we had the energy back then, we can no longer do. We're tired. We have aging parents. We may have health issues ourselves, things going on at work. We're going to retire. We have our own issues.
We have our own shit going on.
Yes, we have our own stuff. And, we also have come to the conclusion, we don't have a lot of time left on this earth. We don't really think that way before 50, 55, but you start to think that way when you hit certain ages and you say to yourself, do I want to be doing this for the rest of my life, where everyone comes, dumps their stuff on me and leaves and has a great life and goes about their day?
Yes.
So that's why I think this episode really, really fascinated me, because I think, especially with adult children, I think that you have patterns and you try to break them and people don't like it, whether it's with your kids, your girlfriends, your husband. When you try to make changes, people like you the way you are because you were easy to be a pushover, or you were easy to dump everything on. And then, how many times have you said to your daughter, they'll cry about something, they'll want to fix something, and then by the end of the day, you'll call and go, so how are you? Fine, why? And you'll be like, what?
Oh, my daughter sent me a text the other day. I don't want to get off subject from your story, but she sent me a text the other day from work saying, oh my God, I'm so embarrassed of what just happened at work. And so now I'm hanging on threads, and I still have that feeling like they are an extension of my own body.
Right.
And I'm feeling secondhand embarrassment for her. I'm worried if she's done something at work that's going to have a big possibility of getting in trouble, like what's going on. Hours later, she gets back to me, and it was like ripped pants or something inane. She just forgot to get back to me and tell me what it was. She handed me a potato and forgot to come get her potato back.
Right. And also that story, thinking of that story, I think texting, we didn't have texting back in the old days. So there's so much easy communication between parent and child that you feel guilty. Guilt comes into play to this. Like, I can't ignore that text.
Right.
I can't
Although they'll ignore yours.
Right. They'll ignore yours all day long. But you, as going back to the mother child, you say, oh God, I can't do that. Mm-hmm. What if their car's on fire, they're drowning in a lake, you can do something about that right that second. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So I think what I learned from kind of looking at this is, what are we getting out of it?
Right. We're not getting mashed potatoes out of this. We're just getting a bad back from carrying the potatoes.
Right. But are we also getting something else out of it?
Oh, do we enjoy those potatoes?
Do we enjoy those potatoes?
Do we want them in the first place? Are we inviting those potatoes?
Well, because how does it make us feel? It makes us feel needed. It makes us feel loved. And although we don't like it, who are we without all those potatoes coming towards us?
Well, I'll even add another feeling. There's the feeling of being disconnected. So if you're having problems out there and solving them yourself, and you're not telling me about every single problem, now I don't know if you have a problem. Maybe you've got a problem. If you're not telling me your problems, I might be worried that you have one. So
yeah, I don't worry about that. Well, that ship has sailed for me about if they're not telling me.
That's a good thing.
Yes.
But for me, I wonder, and I'm not really there either because I feel like they're telling me all of them.
Right. And I think because my kids are of a different age.
Yeah, they're little.
They don't tell me as much anymore because I think that I've kind of shifted on how much I'm going to help and do, because I think it's a disservice to your adult kids when you keep doing things for them and then they don't know how to do anything as an adult. And then I worry, okay, I don't know if all of you out there worry. Then I worry, what if I drop dead of a heart attack or in a car accident, something very unexpected? They're not going to know how to do anything. And then
they'll never go to the dentist again.
They'll never make a doctor's appointment.
Get an oil change.
Right. Nothing. And so then I thought, this is where it's got to begin, because I'm not a young spring chicken. And so I think letting them make their own mistakes, learning from their mistakes, giving them the ability to know they've got it. They can do it. It's going to be great. You've got this. You know how to do it. It gives them self-confidence to do things themselves when you keep doing things for everybody in your life, whether it's a child, a friend. Like, who has that friend that just wants to, throw a bunch of potatoes in your lap and then like leave and then never talk about it again and you're like, how are you doing?
Yes, I haven't talked to you since you were so upset. Oh, shoot. We've had 3 girls' nights out since
right.
then.
Or I met a new guy. What do you mean? That was the old guy. I don't even see him anymore.
Now.
Right.
Oh, did I not tell you it's benign?
Right.
No, that would have been good information. Thank you.
That's what I mean.
I've been praying for you heavily.
Exactly.
You could tell me.
Yeah.
So let's get into your story because to me, this is like with a bow, the story of the child who, one, didn't heed the advice.
Yes, of
and
the
then
parents.
Still wanted more help after trying to rectify the situation.
Right.
So go ahead.
So my daughter moved from Texas to Florida, but when she moved to Texas, my husband said to her, you need to get a new title in that state. Being a lawyer, he knows a lot of things that lay people wouldn't know. So she says, well, how do you do that? Right. And he says, you have to go to the DMV. You have to tell them I just moved here. They take your Florida license tag. First, she says, well, I don't want them to take that. Well, yeah, they have to take it because now they're giving you a Texas one. And so he said to her, make sure you get a copy of your new title, because if you ever move somewhere else, you're going to need that when you go to that DMV, whatever. Well, 2 years goes by.
2 years?
2 years. She lived in Texas for a couple of years. She moves back to Florida.
Oh, good thing she didn't trouble herself with getting that pesky Texas license.
And
she'll just slide back in.
My husband says to her, right when she moved back, you are going to need to go with your new title from Texas to the DMV here and get a Florida license tag within a few weeks. You can't just drive around if you're a Florida resident with, outside for long periods of time. I will. I'm gonna. I'll do it. Right. So all of a sudden, her tag expires. She doesn't know that you can't drive with a suspended license tag. So some neighbor of ours says, oh, I didn't know you lived in Texas. And he goes, no, that's my daughter. He goes, well, her license tag is expired. I know our neighbors are a little,
that's detailed.
Invested.
They're invested.
And so my husband says, I thought I told you to get your title. And she said, oh, I didn't do that. And I just go, I'm just going to go here and do it. He goes, no. I told you to get it in Texas. They don't have it in Florida because you lived in Texas. Well, I didn't do that. He goes, well, you can't drive that car. It's against the law to drive a car with an expired license tag. And she said, well, how am I supposed to get around? And he said, I don't know, because I told you 6 months ago to do this. So she drives the car back to her apartment, which is like 3 minutes from our house. And he said, I hope you don't get arrested, as she's walking out the door. While she's in her apartment complex, they tow her car. And she comes out and says, where's my car? And they said, oh, they towed it. And she says, why? And they said, because you can't park a car that is expired with an out-of-state license plate. I mean, So we're trying to explain to her, they don't know if you stole that car in Texas. They don't know what you know.
Right.
So we make her go down to the place where they towed her car, which is in the middle of it's not a good place.
Right.
She takes an Uber down there. Then they said, you can pay, which was a couple $100 to get your car back, but you can't drive it.
You can't take it out of here.
And she said, why? And they said, you can't drive with a suspended tag. So She leaves it at my house for 2 weeks straight, not driven.
And this invested neighbor by now is like, ooh, what's going on over there?
Right. I mean, this one, so she had to fight with the state of Texas for 2 weeks to get her title, which is like an act of God in itself, because she's of the old school of, I'm going to call and I'm going to just tell him, hey, I need my title. Well, it doesn't work like that.
You can't go, just nothing happens on the phone.
Right. And then she tried to get her title overnighted, which she paid not for overnight, even though she thought she did overnight it, but she really didn't.
I'm tired. See, now, if you're feeling burnout from this story,
Yes.
just imagine being Christine right now, because you're like, I've got a million things going on.
Yes.
Medical stuff happening with mama.
Yes.
And you're dealing with this.
And also, you know, she was pulling at my heartstrings a little bit, like, I had a hair appointment. I mean, it takes months to get into her. Can't you just drop me off? I'll take an Uber back. I'm like, so here's the deal. I feel bad, but I'm not going to rescue, because I think this is a valuable lesson. So I took her to one doctor's appointment, but the bottom line was her doing all of this on her own. She finally got it from Texas, went right over to the Florida license tag and got a new one, and literally said to me, I will never, as long as I live, have this experience again, because she didn't have a car for 2 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
And she's in her late 20s. That's debilitating.
Tell the part about when you said, why don't you just Uber if you're meeting up with friends or going on a date?
Yeah. So she had a date, and she goes, I don't know what I'm going to do. I go, Uber. And she goes, he'll think I've had a million DUIs and they took my driver's license.
Because evidently that's an assumption that is made in the dating world.
Oh, yeah.
If you show up via Uber.
Yep.
It's just assumed you have a suspended license versus a tag.
Yes. Mm-hmm. So I said, well, then I guess you'll have to reschedule your date, because how awkward. First of all, you know, I go to bed at 6:30 at night, or I'm at least in my pajamas. So unless you want me to drive you in my pajamas with my hair up in a ponytail, which I don't think you do.
And how is that better anyway?
Right. How is that? But you still have to get back.
You still have to explain why.
Right.
Yeah.
So anyway, it's things like that really make you think, how much more of this can I do or take?
And that's just one example. That's your adult kiddo. If there is one thing that we've learned from starting this podcast, is that when it comes to menopause, no two women are exactly the same.
And yet none of us are alone.
Hormone Harmony recognizes all of those symptoms we've talked about so much on this podcast, like feeling down and uncomfortable in your own body.
Hot flashes, sleepless nights.
You had a sleepless night last night.
Yes, I did.
Now it's easier to manage menopause with Hormone Harmony, science-backed herbal extracts called adaptogens. They help the body adapt to stressors like chaotic hormonal changes.
Women cannot stop talking about it on social media. A bottle of Hormone Harmony is sold every 24 seconds.
That really says something. The biggest benefit I'm hearing about is, quote, feeling like myself again. That is what women are mentioning over and over again in their reviews. For a limited time, you can get 15% off on your entire first order at happymammoth.com. Just use the code UUPodcast at checkout. That's happymammoth.com and use the code UUPodcast for 15% off today. Uncluttered and Unfiltered is supported by Hearts for Minds. Can you imagine waiting 11 years to get screened for cancer? On average, people with mental health issues experience an 11-year delay between symptoms and seeking help. And close to 2/3 of mental illnesses go untreated. Hearts for Minds promotes healthy lives by promoting mental health education, facilitating early identification, and connecting people to treatment. Are you ready to learn more? Go to heartsforminds.org for more information. Over on our ladies only Facebook page, we asked, just for fun, what are some things that your adult kids didn't know how to do that you were unaware and blindsided by? Laundry, addressing an envelope. Some of that is just a sign of our times.
That's a sign of our times.
And truly, you could all put that back to us while they were living in the house.
Yeah.
You know, my son has a way that he works me where he will get in the kitchen, and now he lives on his own now, but he'll get in the kitchen when he's home and he'll start asking me a million questions about boiling noodles to the point where I'm coming. What do I turn it on to? What do I do? Now, this is a kid who will make roasted Brussels sprouts and a chicken dish from a restaurant that he'll copy. But when he's home, he
Right.
forgets all of it.
Yeah.
So who are some other people that load their potatoes onto our lap? I mean, we've got obviously employers.
I think also elderly parents,
Yeah.
because either number one, they don't have anyone else because they've all died to throw their potatoes on.
Yeah.
So tag you're it, which can be a lot of emotional baggage, because that's where guilt comes in. You feel guilty.
Mm-hmm.
You feel guilty if you don't do what someone is asking you to do, or if it's an elderly parent and they're not all there anymore. I mean, it's all on you. Or a spouse who, constantly says, can you do this when you're on your way home? Or can you do that? Or they have problems in their own work or their own situation, and then they spew it out, and then you call them later and go, how'd that go? And how'd what go? The thing that you were like despondent over this morning, you couldn't even eat breakfast, and that thing.
Don't kid yourself. There is a physical reaction that can happen when someone hands you potatoes. And I love that. Obviously, I love that as an example. That's why I keep going back to it. But my mom let me know that she had texted my daughter a few weeks ago, maybe, and she never heard back from her. My stomach hurt. Now I'm in between two draining people. No offense, but when you have a physical reaction to something someone says, and then a physical reaction to something the other person says, and then now one person's got a problem with the other.
Right.
Now you're being drained.
Because it's two people
it's like
throwing
hooking
potatoes.
A battery up to you from two sides.
Yeah. Well, that's one thing not my circus, not my monkey. That's my other statement.
Yeah.
If it's nothing to do with me personally, I don't get involved at all anymore. I'll say to the grandmother, she's a busy kid, I don't know. You could keep trying to text her. If it's my daughter, listen, I don't want to get in the middle of this. If you don't want to call her, just text her. If not, I try not to get involved in everybody's little minutia, because it just is so emotionally draining in my opinion, at this age. You don't have the bandwidth that you used to have to deal with every person in your life's stuff.
So the takeaway that I'm hearing is that it's more about changing the way you're receiving the potatoes than it is about trying to change the people around you who are handing them to you. In other words, stick your hands in your pocket and say no thank you when they come up to you trying to hand you a big bag of shit.
Well, and I think you also, the first thing is you have to communicate. I am very good now. I wasn't a long time ago, but I'm very good about saying, okay, I've been going. I'm exhausted. And you're really good now. You say, I'm going to take a nap. No one's interrupting my nap time. You have to be clear. And if you can't be clear, you have to ask yourself, why can't I just tell the truth and be honest? What's the worst that can happen? And that's why I think people are scared to do it, because you may lose that person that you deeply love, or that you love, because they don't like change. They want to spew everything to you, no matter who it is in your life, and leave you with it and then move on, because that's the pattern of the relationship. And so I think setting boundaries, telling people how you really, really feel, I can go, me, till 7:30, and then I'll probably bail out after that, or 8 o'clock, whatever, and state it ahead of time. Mm-hmm. So people aren't like, friendships, a lot of it as you get older, you lose some friendships because everyone's going in a different world. Some people may be widows or widowers, mm-hmm. you have different friends. And as you get older, they may just want you as the friend they vent to. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean?
I think that one of the best things you can do for yourself really is acknowledge what it is that is making you want people. And we're not accusing, and I'd be talking to myself more than anybody else, of saying you're asking for it. You ask for it. You're trying to be a martyr. But in a way I am, because I don't want a disconnection. So I have to decide, what do I want more? To feel needed, to know that I'm the first call.
Yep.
Or do I want to be the first call, or do I not want to be the first call? I've got to ask myself that question, because I love sometimes
when my kids feel they can come to me with whatever it is that's going on in their life. But what I have to get away from, if I can't get away from that feeling of, it's like they're an extension of me, so I'm physically feeling whatever pain they're feeling. If I can't get rid of that, I have to stop inviting them to share everything with me.
Right. And that's what I did.
You can't have it both ways.
You can't, and you really cannot have it both ways. You cannot spew everything out to your mom and then think she's going to forget about it. And then you move on, especially after you've broken up with someone and then you get back together with them. I mean, we've seen that scenario, whether it's a child or a girlfriend, and then they've spewed every dramatic thing about this person. And you're like, ew, why are you even knowing this person? And then they get back together with him or they bring him over to your house. You're like, what the hell happened? So I just think I'm in the zone of, I don't want to know unless I'm on a need to know basis. That's what I call it. Mm-hmm. And I also now learn to protect my emotions, meaning I don't have the energy to deal with everybody's drama. I used to be good at it.
And you're very empathetic. You're a very empathetic person.
Thank you. I feel like I'm very empathetic.
Even, whether it's even from just you're someone who could tear up at a commercial.
Yes.
So
I'm your crying friend.
You are my crying friend. I think I'm the person who wants to feel like everyone needs me, and you're just the person whose heart gets touched so much.
Right.
So we're both in a situation where we take on that feeling of, that's what burns you out. That feeling of like, I've got a problem, even though it doesn't affect my life at all. If you've got a problem, I feel like I've got a problem. And then that's not a feasible way to live your life. You can't carry everyone else's problems. You can only have your own.
Well, and like I said earlier, when your kids, like my older daughter is a mom now with a child, and yes, she asks for advice about her situation, whatever. But I always say to her, well, why don't you and him discuss this amongst yourselves? Because he's so smart at these things and, it's your life. And, I don't want to really get in the middle of things anymore. I feel like you're doing them a disservice as they get older. I mean, yours are still young, 20. Mine are, one of them's 34. So, I mean, we're talking way older. You just need to, I feel like most of the decisions I made, even if they were bad ones, I learned a valuable lesson and I learned something from it. And I feel like if I keep fixing, because I'm known as the fixer, if I keep fixing everything, no one's going to ever get to that point and be able to fix their own stuff and learn from their own stuff, whether it's a girlfriend, a brother, a sister, anyone in your life. You have to learn to be honest and open communication. What's the worst that can happen? If they don't want you in their life anymore, I would say that's pretty selfish, that I only want you if I could dump on you. If not, you serve no purpose to me.
Another analogy could be if you've ever worked in a workplace that's pretty corporate and they have work tickets where, like, let's say you have an issue with your computer. I know at one of the TV stations I worked for, if you had an issue, you would put in or even when you call a company to complain, they open a ticket. So by opening a ticket means we're working on your issue for you. And once it's resolved, we will close your ticket. Well, if every time somebody calls you with a problem, you open a ticket for them, imagine the burnout an IT guy at a company would feel if somebody from every department in that company had called him on the same day or same week or even same month, and you had all these open tickets with no resolution. Maybe their computer was fixed and they never told you, or maybe it's just still ongoing and it's waiting for you to give it attention. Instead, you could just say, here's what you can do to fix it. You're on your own.
Or an open-ended question like, are you asking for my advice?
I love that.
That's what I say all the time now.
Are you asking for my advice?
Because inevitably, whatever you say gets thrown back at you. If it didn't go the way they wanted it, and you told me to do that, you said it would work, and then you have that problem. So that's where I am now.
Are you asking me what I would do if it were me?
Right. And if not, if they say, well, I guess, or I don't, then say, this is what I would do, but that doesn't mean you have to do it. It just throws it kind of back at him, knowing that every time anybody says that, you're saying that.
I love that.
Thank you.
I love it. You should have a podcast with words of wisdom like that. That was excellent.
Well,
are you asking me for my advice?
Right. Because through the years, I have learned when you give advice, they'll act like I didn't ask for your advice, even though they really did.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's best just to say, are you asking me or are you just venting? And then maybe they're just venting.
Okay. Great words of wisdom there. We appreciate everybody for being with us and for giving us that topic, okay? Because that is a topic that we've really enjoyed kind of delving into.
Right.
We can go deeper into it another time. And in the meantime, what we would love for you to do is join us on Facebook in our Ladies Only page. That's free, of course. We do have an option, like a bonus club kind of deal on Patreon. That's where you'll get these episodes commercial free and with video. And also a lot of bonus content is on there too. But the main thing there is for $5 a month, you're kind of help us to cover some costs because there are production costs involved in putting on a podcast every single week. So thanks, everybody. How should we close this time? When people are handing you the potatoes, you can let the potatoes go.
And don't look back.
Uncluttered and Unfiltered is supported by Hearts for Minds. Can you imagine waiting 11 years to get screened for cancer? On average, people with mental health issues experience an 11-year delay between symptoms and seeking help, and close to 2/3 of mental illnesses go untreated. Hearts for Minds promotes healthy lives by promoting mental health education, facilitating early identification, and connecting people to treatment. Are you ready to learn more? Go to heartsforminds.org for more information. Did you know that Uncluttered and Unfiltered is a passion project created to reach and connect a community of women over 50? Growing production and promotion costs can be a challenge, and your support means the world. When you join our Patreon bonus club, you'll have access to a ton of otherwise unavailable video content, plus commercial-free episodes and a private chat community where Christine and I will answer any questions about the upcoming series, Organizing Eden, which is really for all of us. Plus, we have a few surprises as well coming your way. For just $5 a month, you'll be helping us grow this incredible sisterhood. And if that's not possible, hey, we get it. Truly, the most incredible way you can support us is just by telling one friend about Uncluttered and Unfiltered. And thank you. We love that you're here.